Greetings, my friends, from snowy, cold, gray Wisconsin. It's always snowy here. It's always cold and it's always gray. Actually, it's still quite lovely. In February, it stops becoming so charming and so lovely. And we're not quite in February yet. We are almost there, though, aren't we? But anyways, I digress. I wanted to continue our conversation around spiritual self-care in this series. And I'm just, talking at the camera at this point about things that I've learned from my own journey, wisdom that I've gleaned here and there. It's wise to me. It may not be wise to you. You can use this if it's helpful, discard it, or turn me off, or pause me, whatever you want to do, silence me if it's not all that helpful. But for this session, I wanted to share with you some wisdom that a priest shared with me years ago. So I found it's applicable to helping me navigate my sense of calling in the priesthood, but I've also found that it's very helpful for times when life feels like it's kind of spinning out of control and it doesn't really matter what I do, things are just going to be chaotic. So I'll share this with you now. But this, as a minister, as a priest, anybody who really works in like the church world, it's very hard to know how to measure success. Like, it doesn't matter how much work you do, there is always a mountain of more work waiting for you on the other side of it. And even things like preaching, it's hard to measure success in terms of preaching, especially these days. Like, there's nobody in the pews listening to you. I find that even in those instances where I came out with a sermon and it's just like, yeah, this is a really good one. This is one of my better ones. I still find myself thinking like, if I could have tweaked it a little bit more, if I could have wordsmithed it a little bit better, if I could have articulated it more in this way, maybe it would be even better, right? It's very hard to measure success. So like in a previous life, I used to be someone who worked with glass. I was a window installer. I cut like table top pieces of glass. I cut plate glass. So like in that line of work, the people in the office would come back with like a ticket for, a new tabletop, for example. I'd measure it, I'd cut, I'd put the piece of glass in the finished pile and it's done, right? And I can mark that ticket off. I could see what I completed. I could measure success that way. Ministry, that doesn't happen. Working with people in general, that just doesn't happen. And so this priest years ago said that one of the things that helps him, because we have this feeling as ministers that things are always incomplete. And that can actually really take a toll on you mentally and emotionally. So this wisdom this one priest imparted years ago to me said that, find little tasks, even meaningless tasks, that you can start and that you can finish. And you can kind of ground yourself in these little practices of doing these little tasks. So for me, for example, one of the things that I really like to do, even though most people don't like doing this, is doing the dishes. I used to not like doing the dishes, but now it actually is something that helps kind of comfort me and ground me. And I can measure success. You can start the project and 5 minutes later, 10 minutes later, 15 minutes later, depending on how many dirty dishes there are, you're finished with it. And I found that it has been very helpful. The thought sounded weird at the beginning, but it's been very helpful for me over the years. Or even things like, one of the things that I enjoy doing is woodworking. And so I've restained several pieces that I've inherited over the years. And being able to have a project where I started it and finished it and can celebrate it, like that's been very, very helpful for me in terms of just finding some rootedness and some centeredness and some sense of accomplishment as a minister. But I've also found it's kind of like a weird side effect. This has also helped me when life seems out of control and not very stable. It's helped me to find control and stability when life has just kind of been unpredictable and chaotic. Again, having something that you can control the outcome of it. When you don't feel like you can control the outcome of other situations in life, it's helpful in small ways. And the more you can cultivate those little tasks where you can regain some semblance of control when life just seems out of whack, it's very, very helpful. So like the spiritual practice of just doing the dishes, making the bed, doing the laundry, finding an art project, like starting something and completing it. I think it's very helpful to do during these times when everything just seems so chaotic and out of control in our society with the pandemic, with all the political stuff, with just everything. So I encourage you to consider that. Like, what are some little projects that you can take on that would be good for your mental health? It might be something completely new. What are some chores that you need to look at from a different perspective? Not as an obligation that you have to do these things, but look at it from the perspective that doing this thing with some intentionality can actually be really good for your soul. So I invite you to consider these things in the days ahead. Sorry. And yeah, hopefully this is helpful for you. God bless.